The last race of the weekend is about to get underway here at the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Grand Finals. We are at the Algarve circuit just outside Portimao. The sun is shining and there is barely a cloud in the sky. It has been a really great weekend of racing, as ever, a great festival of all things Lamborghini, where the European teams are joined by those from North America. We've had the final rounds of the regional championships. They were all decided on Friday, and then the grand finals had a race yesterday, divided so that the AMs and the Lamborghini Cup drivers have standalone races, Pro-Ams and Pros have standalone races. And this is the last race of the weekend. This will determine who wins the Pro-Am and the Pro Grand Finals. It is based on points scored across the races. And in Pro, Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli are ahead by just 1 point now from Nelson Piquet. He will start this race from pole position, as he did yesterday, so he gets bonus points, 1 each for those 2 pole positions. In Pro-Am, it is Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo, who are 3 ahead of Antonin Borger and Dani Pedrosa. They were second in class yesterday. A great drive by both of them and a really good result from Dani Pedrosa. David Addison trackside, down on the grid. Let's join Marietta Evans.
And Dani Pedrosa has a lot of reasons to be very proud. Dani, your first podium yesterday after only 3 rounds on 4 wheels. How special was that?
Yeah, I'm really happy, and I was really surprised. My teammate drove really good. Thanks to him, and also thanks to the strategy of the team. And it paid off really well, and I was fortunate enough to be on the podium.
And what do you think of the level of the competition in this Super Trofeo?
Yeah, the level, at least for me, I feel like it's very high. A lot of fast cars, and I have to pick up and learn more, but for sure there are good battles at the track, and it's very exciting.
And now that you have tried this for 3 rounds, what are your plans for next year?
At the moment, I have no plans. I just want to see this last round, how it was, how I felt on it. But obviously, after this podium, you kind of want more, no? But let's see for the future. I have to still handle it with the MotoGP calendar. But very happy and excited to maybe take another time.
Thank you, Dani. Have a great race today. Thank you.
He might even be the Pro-Am Grand Final winner, because with second place yesterday, you never know what might happen to the Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo combination ahead on points, and it's going to be interesting to see how Dani Pedrosa gets on over the next 50 minutes. Of course, mandatory pit stops for the driver changes, slightly longer if you are a soloist, an extra 3 seconds spent in the pits. There is the man on pole position. That is Nelson Piquet, who's had 2 wins in the American Championship this year, although he's not actually taken the checkered flag first in either of them. He sort of inherited both, with the people ahead having penalties. But very much he must start as one of the favourites, because the winners yesterday, Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing, start only on the 8th row of the grid. Max Wearing not as quick as Loris Spinelli. His qualifying time wasn't as good yesterday, so he finds himself with a lot of work to do. David Addison trackside, joined by Lamborghini factory GT racer Mirko Bortolotti. This is going to be a fantastic race, isn't it? Watching Nelson Piquet starting from pole, Max Wearing, Loris Spinelli, the European champions, pushing forward from lower back on the grid. There's a lot to enjoy here.
Yeah, good afternoon, first of all. Great to be back in the commentary booth and follow the action with you, David. So, yeah, looking forward to an exciting finale here at Portimao for the pro race in the World Finals. And as you already did the introduction, I think we can expect really good racing and a good fight for the overall title.
For sure. Now, another car that's been really quick all weekend is that of the Iron Dames, Doriane Pin and Michelle Gatting, and Marietta has caught up with Doriane Pin.
Doriane, this has been such an important weekend for you and the team, the podium, the pole, and the great announcement yesterday.
Yeah, great announcement yesterday. It was special for us, and looking forward to race with Lamborghini and to start our journey with all the team.
And how are you feeling for the race today?
Yeah, I mean, we're feeling good. The important thing is to start good today and make a good first lap. And then, but I hope Michelle, she did a great job since the beginning of the week. So we will be concentrate, and for the second part of the race we need to manage the traffic a bit, but we will push for it.
Competitions here is very high. What do you feel you are learning this weekend?
I mean, first of all, we learn the car because it's completely different than what we are driven before, and also the fight because we are all close to each other. So the fight on track, and then the management of the tires. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great race today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doriane Pin took pole position for the race that she started in Super Trofeo Europe on Friday. First race in the car, first race weekend in the car. That's quite an achievement, isn't it?
That's pretty impressive, isn't it? I mean, great debut for her. And yeah, looks like she really likes the car and got on really well with the Lamborghini, which pleases not only her but also pleasing us. So it's really great to see.
Well, there is the grid. It is formed. We don't seem to have Brunet Formanek's Pro-Am entry from near the back of the grid, but other than that, I think everybody is good to go. It might be that he's trapped in the pit lane, although the car did have problems yesterday, so could well be that it's not able to take part. We'll double-check in a moment once the cars get underway. Nelson Piquet then, starting there, he is on pole position, and it is going to be Patrick Cuéllar, the fast Finn, who has, of course, taken titles in Lamborghini Super Trofeo over his career, lining up alongside him. He's been driving with Eduardo Piscopo in the American Series and did so on Friday, but he's been going solo this weekend in Grand Finals. He won the European Championship in 2015, and he won the World Final as well in 2015. So Patrick Cuéllar certainly knows what to do in one of these cars, but Nelson Piquet probably starts as the favourite, doesn't he, given that he's an ex-Formula One racer?
Yeah, well, I know Patrick really well. If you remember, a few years ago, we shared the car at the Blancpain Sprint race in Misano. I think it was 2015. We finished on the podium both races, so I really had a good memory on sharing the car with Patrick. Really fast guy, really special character. I really enjoy, hanging around with him. And we had a good chat this morning in the hospitality. So, yeah, it's great to see him keeping his level really high in over all those years, and doesn't matter where you put him, which car, is always competitive. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And then obviously Nelson Piquet, we all know him for his Formula One experience and past. So looking forward to a really exciting race today. Sorry.
In terms of the race, I mean, Patrick Cuéllar, yes, has a really good chance of winning it, but he only got 9th yesterday. Yesterday's race was, again, riddled with track limit penalties, and they hit Patrick Cuéllar, so he fell to 9th place. So he can't really win the World Final. Max Weering here, the European champion, helped by Loris Spinelli, but starting on the 8th row of the grid, there's a lot of work to do in his stint.
Yeah, that's not ideal for sure. I mean, that's not a really good starting position. Probably also not reflecting, the pace they have as a team. So it's going to be a tough afternoon. But I'm sure they have the potential to climb and gain some positions and go back to the top. But it will not be easy.
And there is Brendan Leach, the very rapid New Zealand driver, in the car that he shares with Gerhard Watzinger. That's another of the Pro-Am entries. As I say, Pro-Am led by Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo, from Danny Pedrosa and Anthony Morga, and then third, Gerhard Watzinger and Brendan Leach. And they've also got a point for a pole position to factor in. It's points scored across this race and yesterday's. If there's a tie on points, the winner is decided by the faster lap set in this race. So a lot of the pressure has got to be on not only keeping out of trouble, but also being quick, just in case we do end up with a tie on points. But we'll get the abacus out in that second stint. The grid is formed then. Everybody making their way now back into the pit lane. That mandatory pit stop window between 20 and 30 minutes. And it's an awesome looking grid. Great looking cars, these, and a fantastic noise. And they really lend themselves to this circuit.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's joy to watch the Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo around Portimao. As you said, the grid is really huge, with really high quality drivers, teams out there. So let's hope for a strong and good race.
Well, there's much to look forward to. There is much to enjoy, I'm sure, because this is, as it would be for a pro grid, a very high-quality one. The green flag is waved, the cars get away. Slightly hesitantly, though, there was the car of Gianno Tarino, who has been sharing with Loris Spinelli in the American Championship this year, but goes on his own here because Spinelli is committed to driving with Max Wearing. He can't be sharing two cars. He's got this commitment to Max Wearing. So this is Nelson Piquet's view as he turns now through turn 3. They'll get themselves in the side-by-side formation for the rolling start coming out of the last couple of corners, but there's a chance to urge some warmth into the Pirelli tyres. It's a nice hot day again, but this lap's still essential to get them up to operating temperature. Through there goes number 27, the Oregon team car, Lewis Williamson and Massimo Siglia, the European Pro-Am champions. So Nelson Piquet and Patrick Cuéllar on the front row of the grid. That is going to look really tasty, I think, for the first few corners. Good fighting prospect between them. Karl Marcelli starting third. He has won the North American Championship this year, and Amaury Bonduelle 2 race wins in Europe. Brendan Leach, quick in Pro-Am, and another race winner in Europe. Milan Tikans lining up alongside him. Gianna Tarino, winner in America, and Michel Gatting starts for the Iron Dames. On the 5th row of the grid, there is Jean-Luc Daria, who was very rapid in his stint yesterday, and Anthony Morca goes first in the car that he shares for the Rexel FFF racing team with Danny Pedrosa. Then it's Billy Johnson, the American former WEC racer. Brian Ortiz, the Pro-Am Championship leader, comes next, having been the runners-up in the American Pro-Am Championship this year. Dario Capitano could be a man to watch, and then it's Patrick Liddy lining up alongside him. Capitano a bit further back than you might have anticipated, but he's ahead of Max Wearing, the European champion, and Bryson Liu, the North American Pro-Am champion, lining up alongside him. Then on the 9th row of the grid, you've got Robert Vandenberg going solo, and Ashton Harrison in her final Super Trofeo race, the American lady sharing with Tom Long ahead of Luke Barkley, and the Romanian Lamborghini young driver David Serban alongside. Next on the grid, there is Emmanuel Colombini and Dimitri Gvatsova for Target Racing, 22nd in the car that he shares and has had a win in with Milan Petelé. Then you've got a long way back, actually, Massimo Ciglia, having done a slower time than Lewis Williamson, and Oscar Lee next to him sharing with the quick Brit Dan Wells. Then it's Alessandro Tarabini and Jordan Missig ahead of Pietro Parolini, and then missing from the grid, Bronek Formanek. Now yesterday, we've got Kerong Lee at the back. Yesterday, Paolo Bilieri, who was the other driver of number 91, taken ill, and so it looks like it is going to be now a solo effort for the Bonaldi car as the field now makes its way up to the grid. So, rolling start, 50 minutes, and this promises to be a really fierce fight. It's going to be absolutely flat out, of course, for 50 minutes. It is Nelson Piquet on pole position. It is Patrick Cuéllar alongside, the Brazilian alongside the Finn. The lights on the gantry are red, and in a moment they will change to get the final race of Lamborghini Grand Finals weekend underway. Nelson Piquet accelerates now up towards the lights, which are about to change. Good start being made by Amaury Bonduelle in the gold car in the background. Not a great start by Cuéllar, and he's about to get jumped, I think, as they come down towards turn 1 by Karl Marcelli, who goes through on the inside line there. Yes, the Canadian goes second, Cuéllar down to third, Brendan Leach fourth, Bonduelle is fifth on the outside line of the gold car. Milan Tikans up the inside as they hit turn 3, and Cuéllar fights back. Look on the inside line, goes second. So Patrick Cuéllar is back up into second place, but a great start by Piquet, and he's already built himself a small lead.
Yeah, he made the most out of his pole position, had a great getaway here into turn 1 with the guys fighting in the background. Managed to open a little bit of a gap already. So a great start by Piquet.
And he's trying to build that lead. The start is under investigation, but we'll worry about that if anything comes of it as the cars make their way uphill for the first time. Brendan Leach getting ahead of Milan Tikans. Amaury Bonduelle has dropped back despite a good start. He's lost ground as there. 171. Billy Johnston goes through on the inside of Jean-Luc Daria as they make that climb out of turn 8. So Piquet leads the way, and looking very strong indeed, not only in terms of race classification, but in terms of winning the grand final. Bearing in mind he was second yesterday. There is Max Wearing in the yellow car, trying to squeeze through on the inside, but struggling to make progress at the moment, and I suspect therefore that the progress is going to have to be made by Loris Spinelli in that second stint. Loris Spinelli, we know, is a mighty fast driver in Super Trofeo, but even so, he needs Max Wearing to gain some places, and a safety car would help him out in his stint as well. So they're coming up towards the end of the opening lap. There, around the outside line, goes Ashton Harrison, but Nelson Piquet leading. It wasn't a great start, though, by Patrick Cuéllar, was it? He fell back a bit.
Yeah, but I think the second place in the grid here is surely the worst spot to start rather than starting third, because you can only react on the pole man. So it's surely not easy to start from the outside of the front row. But he still managed to recover well and into turn 2, regaining second place.
Dario Capitano there, number 127, to the outside, then the inside up towards turn 3, tries to squeeze up the inside line but couldn't quite do it. Antoine Imborga fending him off, and then everybody running wide there coming out of turn 4. There is Max Weering still pushing, but you see how many cars are running wide, and I rather fear that the track limit warnings will come. Dario at the inside clatters into the side of Michel Gatting, and the Iron Dames car off the road losing places, but Dario there was a bit ambitious, and we've got more strife here as well. 91, that facing the wrong way is Pietro Perolini, and there's one of the Rexel FFF racing team cars involved in that. I think it's Oscar Lee, is it not, number 51? He's trying to get away, but that's a bit of a mess coming out of turn 3. It is Oscar Lee, and how have they done that? Let's have a look. Oscar Lee goes around, and bang, there's nowhere for Perolini to go. So the road just suddenly narrowed ahead of him. There's nowhere to go at all, was there? Right, Nelson Piquet leads the way. Hopefully those two can get themselves out of strife. But Piquet looking strong right now, and Kujala not closing. Gap, if anything, up to 1.7 seconds. So Nelson Piquet heading up towards the timing line. This will put 2 laps in the book, and as he goes through now, starting lap 3, it is 1.7 seconds. He's still looking strong. Kujala second, Marcelli third, Brendan Leach fourth, Milentikins in 5th place, and in 6th it is Amaury Bonduel. Dario Capitano there makes a dive on the inside of Antonin Borga. Borga, remember, is second in Pro-Am, so it's not necessarily about racing these cars, it's about racing his class rivals, one of whom dives up on the inside line there. That was Patrick Liddy, the American, in the green and white car, goes through. That was quite a good pass.
Yeah, quite an opportunistic move, getting benefit from the cars ahead of him, attacking his rival, so gaining the lead in Pro-Am, so good move.
Right now, you've got Max Weering having to get his elbows out and force a way through. Max Weering was 14th at the end of the previous lap, and he started 15th on the grid, so progress, but limited progress being made. Of course, part of the problem is everybody operating at a high level, all the cars the same, so it's not easy to storm your way through, especially with all of that traffic ahead.
Yeah, not at all, especially in the early stages. Everyone is fighting, but yeah, we haven't seen many incidents so far, so everybody keeping it really clean, and that makes obviously life a little bit more difficult for Weering at the moment on recovering the positions he needs.
And Loris Spinelli will be watching all of this, thinking we need a safety car now, as Weering dives up the inside to try to get past Borga, but he can't quite do it there. A safety car now would bunch them up, so there'd be less time lost, even if Max Weering hadn't got through the traffic, because the leaders have just gone over the timing line. So now 3 laps are done. Starting lap 4, the margin is up to 1.5 seconds. But if you look at the gap between Piquet in the lead and Max Weering now coming up towards the timing line in 14th place, it's already 12 seconds, and that's a big gap.
Yeah, true, but yeah, it's still a long race, that's for sure, and for sure safety car would be helpful, but it doesn't matter if it comes now or later on. It just would be really helpful in regrouping the field. But yeah, they still have, you know, a long race ahead, a pit stop to go through, and nice move, by the way, now getting 2 positions into the hairpin, and so making good progress here.
Yeah, Max Weering now perhaps getting a little bit more confidence in the car. He's a relatively inexperienced driver, 2nd season in Super Trofeo, although he's done a lot of miles, Europe and the North American Championships last year. Different team for him this season, going from Johan Kral's team to Bonaldi, one of the top operators in Super Trofeo. Jean-Luc Daria being given a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. That was against the Iron Dames car, so 5-second penalty for Jean-Luc Daria, number 6 in the Vincenzo Sospiri entry. Piquet 1.6 seconds ahead of Kujala at the start of the lap, and 2 seconds ahead by the end of the 2nd sector. There going through is Kyle Marcelli. the North American champion, with Danny Formal, who will take over from him. They were in strife at the start of yesterday's race, but fought back to a very good 6th place, and up towards the timing line comes the very fast Canadian, and he looks to be closing on Kujala as they go through. Not much to choose between them in terms of lap time, but Piquet now over 2 seconds clear, so he's building the gap, isn't he, quite nicely?
Yeah, absolutely flying on the top. I think he gained 5 or 6 tenths in the last lap, so incredible pace. But we still need to see how it plays out during the race, because as we know, tire degradation and the tire management is a huge factor here in Portimao, as well as track limits. So they all know that they have to survive an hour stint and be competitive in the end. But yeah, really strong first part of the race for Nelson Piquet, building a good gap.
And this is the view as he turns his way then now downhill, brakes, sets the car up. And you can see the input that he has to make, working all the time around here, it seems. Just talk us around this part of the lap.
Yeah, we're getting into the fun part here. This is the end of Sector 2, start of Sector 3. And we're heading into turn 12 now. Fortunately, we're losing the onboard cam, but we are now in 13. It's second to last corner now, which is really, really important for the exit here to get a good run, because everything you gain on the exit here is something you can carry throughout the entire main straight, because the last corner is almost flat, just over the crest, carrying a lot of speed. Careful with track limits here on the exit. He keeps it really clean. And very long main straights of the Portimao circuit, where you reach the highest top speed of around 277 k's. Heavy on the brakes into turn 1. Yeah, I mean, watching this onboard really puts me in a position where I would like to drive myself at the moment. But, so, yeah, it's just really cool to see an onboard round here.
So Nelson Piquet comes down towards turn 5, another crest, and as you drop downhill, then you've got to hit the brakes, go down through the gears. Second gear hairpin.
First gear.
Okay, drops into first, up to 3rd gear now. Climbs the hill. Again, another crest, set the car up.
Preparing the second one, yeah.
Lots
really
of curves
crucial to have a good exit here. It's going uphill. For another actually straight, because this corner is actually flat, easy. Another blind braking point, and we are back in turn 11, where we started the lap, the previous lap around.
Whoops, a little bit crossed up. Nelson Piquet gets away with that, but it shows that even the best can make a tiny error.
Yeah, well, if we're pushing, obviously the rear steps out. It's not easy to find the right balance between being at the limit of the car and at the same time not overdriving. But he reacted really well to that, and didn't cost him much.
And while we've been on board with Piquet, he has built that lead, because it is now over 3 seconds. He comes across the line 3.4 seconds clear of Patrick Kujala, who in turn has got Kyle Marcelli hustling on behind him. Max Weering, incidentally, is up into 13th place, so he's gained a position, but while he's getting through the traffic, he's losing time. He's now nearly 17 seconds behind Piquet, all of which makes Loris Spinelli's life even tougher. Now you can anticipate Weering to be in at the start of the pit window, which we're only really 9 minutes away from.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be one of the factors for them to choose the right moment for their pit stop, trying to maximize their laps in clean air. Obviously, if they're stuck in traffic, then probably they will try to go for the undercut and put some fast laps in straight after the pit stop in order to gain some position virtually, because I think it's going to be a really important point of their race, considering their rather bad starting position they had today.
Absolutely so. Nelson Piquet then, in the meantime, trying to build as much of a gap as he can. Patrick Kujala, surprisingly, not being able to respond. The flying Kyle Marcelli still there in 3rd place. And then in 4th, just in the background, the red car coming over the brow at turn 11, is Brendan Leach leading Pro-Am and coming into this third in yesterday's Pro-Am race. So there's Kujala. Still slightly surprising that he hasn't been able to go with Piquet. Gap opening up over these first 6 laps of the race. They're about to complete lap 7 and 8 minutes before that pit window opens. So the Bonaldi team will be looking at the track position against the clock of Max Weering and bringing him in, no doubt, as soon as possible. But we've got another 4 laps maybe before we get to that point. So Weering needs to try to lose as little time as he can. Battles building up behind. Look, Brendan Leach has now got Milan Tikens behind him. There he is. And another little battle comes over the line. We've got Gianno Taurino, then Billy Johnson and Michel Gatting. Goes to the outside line in the pink car of the Iron Dames. Can't go around the outside. Tries to get the undercut on the inside, going into turn 2. And not quite able to do that either. Down through the gears to turn 3. First gear hairpin there. Back onto the power. Can't find a way past Johnson, but if there was damage sustained in that contact down at the hairpin, Michel Gatting is driving round it.
Absolutely, yeah. As we've seen, the contact was pretty heavy from what we could see. But yeah, car is still looking all right. But sometimes you get, a little bit of a touch, and then the car starts to feel different. But she's completely pushing it and trying to gain the place now.
Winner, of course, of the Gold Cup, along with Doriane Pin and Sarah Bovey and Rahul Fry in the 24 Hours of Spa this year. So the Iron Dames have had a really good year, whether it's been in multi-mark GT racing or this weekend in Super Trofeo, or of course Doriane Pin winning her class in the Ferrari Challenge Europe, as now Michel Gatting is under attack from Dario Capitano out of the North American Championships. They plunge down the hill on this 8th lap of the race. Nelson Piquet has done the fastest lap of the race, and last time around had the gap up to 3.9 seconds, and Michel Gatting attacks Billy Johnson. Johnson having to make that car really wide to keep her behind.
Yeah, that's the way, the kind of fights we want to see, obviously. Close racing, especially in the low-speed sector where it's easier to follow the car. Once you get in a medium to high-speed corner, it's always a little bit difficult as you start to lose the front end, obviously, due to the aero wash that it's generating. And you really need to keep an eye on your tires, because pushing too much, too hard, getting too much temperature into the tire will obviously not help your performance at the end of the race. But good racing what we're seeing here, David.
Absolutely so. Michel Gatting then closing onto the tail here of Billy Johnson, but being caught in turn by Dario Capitano, and Dario's co-driver Eduardo Liberati is in the pit lane with Marietta.
Eduardo, how do you think your co-driver is managing the situation out there?
Yeah, he's doing well. We had a difficult qualifying, so he started P13. Now he's recovering positions. I think we're P10 already. So let's see what can happen in the second stint.
And how are you feeling ahead of when you jump in the car?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel confident we can make some ground for sure. I will push to do as much overtaking as possible.
Did you know this racetrack before this weekend?
I did only one testing like three years ago, so not really a lot, but we had a lot of driving from Tuesday, so that's basically the same level for everybody.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Well, there is Dario Capitano chasing after Michel Gatting, who still hasn't quite been able to find a way past Billy Johnson. Gianno Taurino, who got, I think, 3 penalties for track limit warnings yesterday, is on his last warning now. So, as we've done now 9 laps of the race, we're heading to that point where these track limit transgressions are all totting up. Nelson Piquet now, 5 seconds ahead of Patrick Kujala. Michel Gatting goes through, as we say, that car not showing any ill effects after the contact earlier on. 4 more minutes before the pit window opens. Nelson Piquet, though, right now, Mirko, is just looking unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely flying at the front, building a really good gap, so everything looking good for him. But the battle behind him is quite intense at the moment, so anything's still possible here. And as you said, 3 minutes to the pit window, which will spice things up with different strategies and obviously driver changes in some cases. Some other drivers are running solo, so there will be penalties applied. So yeah, let's see what's going to happen in the next few minutes.
It's always one of the fascinations of double driver races, the differing pace of drivers, and you'll see cars rise and fall through the order, especially those Pro-Am cars. Pro-Am being led by Brendan Leach from Patrick Liddy. Then you've got Brian Ortiz ahead of the North American champion Bryson Liu. So Antonin Borger is down in 5th place in class now, so that's going to make Dani Pedrosa's life a little bit more difficult. But that said, you never know what might happen in the second part, whether it's in terms of incidents or overtaking or penalties for track limits, because no doubt there are a few brewing in the system. Downhill, once more, plunges Michel Gatting, and Michel Gatting is being given a warning flag for track limits, and is 9th and tries to get at the inside of Billy Johnson there. Look, coming out of turn 13. Inside of that corner, outside at the next, no, tries to switch across, but Billy Johnson almost stops the car on the apex there. There's no gap at all on the inside there. Michel Gatting still frustrated, can't find a way through. So Johnson using all of his experience from single-seaters, of sports car racing, of NASCAR-style racing, keeping Michel Gatting at bay over the timing line, the margin between those two, 0.3 of a second, but this is Michel Gatting's view as she comes down towards turn 1, finding it hard to make the progress.
Yeah, but giving it absolutely everything, obviously, as we've seen, she now received a warning for track limits, but that's exactly what we were talking about before. When you're following the car so closely, trying to gain the place, it's yeah, sometimes really difficult to judge the right speed in order to stay close, but at the same time respect the track limit. Sometimes it really drags you out a little bit just because of the aero wash, and yeah, it's not so easy. But you can see in the low speed sections, it's really easy to follow and to fight, but on the high speed sections a bit difficult at times.
So Michel Gatting tucked up behind Billy Johnson, and also under attack from Dario Capitanio there, who is taking Patrick Liddy along for the ride. So it's a 4-way battle pack, this. Billy Johnson doing a good job of hanging on to the place, but of course while he's there he's losing touch relative to the traffic ahead. And behind this group of cars is Max Wearing, now 23 seconds away from the lead, and he's going to have to do another lap because we're still a minute away from the pit window opening, so he won't be able to come in this time, as there you see Michel Gatting all over the back of Billy Johnson, but everywhere she wants to be, Johnson's already put the car to defend, hasn't he? That's Piquet going through as the race leader, 5 seconds to the good. Kujula in second place, Kyle Marcelli in third, but it almost now suggests that this is Nelson's race to lose, because he's done such a good job in the first stint, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's 5.2 second lead, quite comfortable. The two cars behind him are fighting for position as well, so yeah, actually everything under control. Strong race, he knows he has the pace, and yeah, so everything looking good, but it's a long race still to go, half an hour. Yeah.
A lot can happen, can't it? Yeah. Pit window is about to open then, so it will be open at the end of this lap, and I suspect we'll see quite a few people diving in, partly to put a quicker co-driver in, but also if you're here like Michel Gatting, stuck in traffic, doing something clever in the pit stops on the strategy might just help gain a place.
Yeah, you need to try something. If you cannot do it on track, then you need to try to do it with the strategy, and I think I'm pretty sure that they are thinking about it. Looks like Michel Gatting has a bit more pace rather compared to the car in front, but can't find a way past yet.
And behind them is Max Wearing, who's not really lapping any quicker. Even though these drivers are all in a battle, his lap times are about the same, so he's not really closing. There is Ashton Harrison in number 125. She's in 19th place. That's another of the Pro-Am cars, ahead of David Serban, and then Dimitri Ganatsova in the background. So the American lady who has been racing in the Acura NSX this year with Mario Farnbacher in the States, calling time on her Super Trofeo career at the end of this weekend. She's been a stalwart racer of Super Trofeo, and Ashton Harrison has got faster and faster season after season. There she is in 19th place. Right, the pit window is open, so eyes to the timing screen now, with the timing tower on your screens, because no doubt we're going to have people coming in, one of whom is Gianno Tarino. Well, he's a soloist, so he's getting the pit stop done, but Michel Gatting also, there she is for the Iron Dames, comes in. That makes sense, doesn't it, to get out of the traffic?
Yeah, as expected. I think clever move from the Iron Dames. Let's see if it works out.
And Max Wearing is in as well, as we were expecting to give way to Loris Spinelli, so light the blue touch paper and stand back once Loris is in the car. Out gets Michelle Gatting. That's your seat, says Doriane Pin. That one's mine. So in she gets. And Michelle Gatting is there to help with the belts. Sometimes we see the other driver do it, sometimes we see a mechanic do it. Which is your preferred? Do you help your co-driver? Is there much you can tell him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always do it driver with driver. There's a procedure that you practice in order to be effective and fast at the same time, because there's not much time, and obviously the faster you are, the more time you have to adapt yourself when you sit in the car. So it's definitely, I mean, we've seen mechanics doing it, but in our case we always prefer to do it between ourselves. And as we've seen also now the driver change on the 83 with Michelle Gatting and Doriane Pin, we see these girls, they know each other really well. They race together basically the whole year, so they know how to do a driver change properly, and that's what we've seen here today as well.
When Marco Mappelli was with me yesterday, he was making the point that when you come down the pit lane to end your stint, you've still got quite a lot of work to do. You know, you're loosening the belts, you're changing the driver ID, you're going through the whole process ready for when you stop the car. You've still got work to do. You've still got to think, even as you bring it to the pit box.
Oh yeah, sure. There's many things you have to do before the pits, as you just mentioned. Same also for the driver that jumps in the car, obviously. Yeah, but it's all a procedure, I think, at the end of the day. For first time you're racing GTs, it's probably something new that you have to adapt and get used to. But once you do it on a regular basis, it's quite a routine.
For sure. Now there is Patrick Kujala, who has come in. I mentioned that Max Weering has now given way to Loris Spinelli, so that's going to be one to watch. Nelson Piquet, just like Patrick Kujala, is a solo driver, so it's an extra 3 seconds spent in the pits. Kujala has been racing in the Friday Super Trofeo North America races with Eduardo Piscopo, but he's on his own for the grand finals. There is Nelson Piquet Jr. then, who turns his way up now towards turn 14. So the British Formula 3 champion, Formula E champion. Again, another little slide, proof of how hard he is working, but he's well clear in the race lead now, but doesn't want to make any errors, otherwise things are going to look very, very different for him. Out of turn 15 and into the pits he comes. So got to be careful not to speed in the pits, got to be careful that the pit stop time is to the regulations. So drops it down to first gear. As away there goes in the background Patrick Kujala, and has lost a place in the pits, hasn't he? Because that's Danny Formal, who was behind and has come out ahead. So that's either a slow stop by Kujala or a very good stop by the Wayne Taylor Racing team, putting Danny Formal into the car. And it means at the moment that Milan Tikens is the on-the-road race leader, but this is Piquet arriving at his pits. Down to first gear, into neutral, stops the car, and all he can do now really is just sit and wait.
Wait for a coffee.
So while we watch Nelson Piquet's pit stop, let's hear from Kyle Marcelli, and he's with Marietta.
Kyle, a very strong stint keeping that car in podium positions. How did it feel for you?
Honestly, it's a tough car today. You know, yesterday's cooler conditions seemed to reward us, and so maybe Danny's going to have a better car here in this second stint. But for me, the tires were just getting a bit too greasy. I lacked a lot of front. But, you know, I think we made the most of it. We've been working hard all week. The Wayne Taylor Racing guys have been, you know, sweating like crazy trying to give us a great car. You know, today was victory or nothing, so we'll see what Danny can do. But we're in contention. We took second place in the pit stop there, so now it's just the leader up ahead. We'll see what the tire degradation is like.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that point you've been making, Nico, about tyre degradation, obviously in the minds of the teams as well, and another point being made that it's a hotter race today, the track temperature and the ambient temperature, than yesterday, so they've got to think about that.
Yeah, and obviously the track is rubbering in, so that can also affect the balance of your car that you had during the week. And sometimes, you know, making the right calls is not that easy with all these changing conditions and the track evolution and everything. So at the moment looks like obviously the Nelson Piquet car looks really, really strong. For sure he's doing a great job. But I think the package is just extremely strong today.
So there is Dani Formal then, the Costa Rican driver who's got himself up ahead now of Patrick Cuéllar on that pit stop. So the place gained. And the Costa Rican driver comes over the brow.
I think that Cuéllar is running solo, if I'm not wrong. So maybe
Correct.
that was a
Yeah.
3-second.
That's true. Yes.
3-second penalty that, yeah, cost him the position. But it's still a 23-minute race and plenty of time for Patrick to get back in the fight.
Yeah, Patrick doesn't just sit back, does he? He's a fighter. So, yeah, you're quite right. He had to serve an extra 3 seconds in the stop, which is why that position has flicked. And Nelson Piquet is ahead of the pair of them. There is 147, which is the car that Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo share and leads in the points in Pro-Am. And is Brian Ortiz at the wheel of it at the moment. So that car over the brow of the hill, 22.5 minutes still to go, and at the end of the next lap I think we'll have a proper order. 1 or 2 are hanging on to the positions just because they're staying out rather than making a pit stop. Let's go back to the pit lane. Marietta has got more drivers to talk to.
And I am now with Ashton Harrison. Ashton, that was your last ever stint in a Super Trofeo Lamborghini. How emotional was that?
Yeah, it's really sad. I'm going to miss the sport. That's not necessarily how I would have wanted to finish my last start. We had contact twice by 2 cars completely out of class, and that kind of pushed us back a little bit, but Tom just got in the car, so I'm hopeful. It's been a great 4 years with the Wayne Taylor Racing and with Lamborghini and our Harrison contracting, so I'm just so thankful for the opportunity.
And what can you tell us about your plans for next year?
Soon. I'll tell you soon. Thank you guys for everything.
Thank you very much.
Ashton Harrison's stint done then. In comes Antonin Borger to give way to Dani Pedrosa for the Rexel FFF racing team. And there's an example of one driver out, not helping with the belt. So it's the mechanic that's going to have to help Dani Pedrosa. Antonin Borger adopts the attitude, I'm done, I'm out of here. So in gets Dani Pedrosa. Belt's done up. He's done a decent job, hasn't he, for somebody that's not that experienced in car racing terms?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not really an easy task to jump into a race car and be quick straight away. Obviously, we know his talent and yeah, and his speed on a motorbike. But I think he's enjoying it still to be on 4 wheels. Definitely, it's a different feeling. But we've seen also with Valentino, who had way more experience than Dani on racing cars. Yeah, he's been struggling at the beginning of the year a bit more, but then he really made progress in the GT World Challenge this year. So yeah, these guys, they know how to race. It's clear, but still not easy and yeah, not a given fact that you jump in the race car and you're straight away on top.
Sure, but Dani Pedrosa is elected to come and race in this and learn, and we hope to see more of him in Super Trofeo next year. Now, the pit window is closed. Nelson Piquet leads the race by 3.9 seconds and is still a little bit quicker than the pack behind him, so that's a car going nicely. You're looking at the moment at Marzio Moretti ahead of Patrick Cuéllar, so that's 2 places lost after the pit stops from Cuéllar. Again, those 3 seconds extra have certainly lost him 1, but he's now quite a long way back from Dani Formal, like he's 4 seconds back, so the best part of 4 seconds back. So Cuéllar's car doesn't look as racy as it needs to be. It doesn't look as quick as it really should be to get him back into contention.
Yeah, looks like they're struggling a bit more than what they expected. Can be due to yeah, the factors we were talking before. Good battles going on here.
Yeah, that's Loris Spinelli trying to get past his regular co-driver, Gianna Taurino. They don't often go toe-to-toe. They normally share a car. Taurino getting up with Doriane Pin, and there's contact. Doriane Pin gets sideways, and Taurino will go through. Spinelli tries to get around on the outside as well, and has done so. This is Doriane Pin's view, and Loris Spinelli comes out of turn 14 ahead, around the outside. Great racing on track. Let's quickly get back to Marietta in the pit lane. We'll come back to the pit lane in a moment, because as this battle goes over the timing line. So through goes the pack, and where does that now put Loris Spinelli? He's up into 7th place, 22 seconds back. Another penalty goes the way of Luke Barkley for track limit offences. Interesting this, Spinelli on the tail of Gianna Tarino. As I say, they normally share a car, so very, very rarely will they have raced against each other.
Yeah, it's always a special feeling when you're fighting your teammate or your regular teammate. For sure, the respect is always there, but lunge now into the hairpin here. Was it a back marker, or is it? I think it's a position, right?
It is for position, but that's Gerhard Vatzinger, who is the AM in a Pro-Am car. So Vatzinger in the red car, a little bit slower than the pros around him, understandably. So yes, it was a good dive by Taurino, and he's gone through, up into 5th, up into 6th is Spinelli. But of course, Spinelli's lap time's affected by the fact that he's not in clear air, but he's about to be straight through on the inside.
Yeah, looked like an easy pass. Maybe Taurino realized that Spinelli had way more pace, and yeah, just made life a little bit more easy for him in order to gain some time together, let's say.
So now Doriane Pin pressing on. We can go back down to the pit lane. I think Marietta is at the Iron Dames garage.
Michelle, a lot of things happening in this race, but let's talk about your stint first.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I got hit in T5, completely unnecessary, I think, to drive like this. I come from quite high-level championships, and I mean, it's very unprofessional to hit somebody like that, but it happened. After that, I was having a close fight with car 171. He did a good job. I honestly, I couldn't pass him. I was much faster, but to pass with these cars, it's very difficult. So it was a bit of a shame because he was holding me back a bit.
One thing is for sure, both Doriane and you have demonstrated the speed you have. What do you think of what Doriane is doing and everything she's learning this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, Dory, I just think she got hit, unfortunately, out there. So I think the guys are a little bit, I don't know, maybe upset of seeing a pink car beating them. But, I mean, we keep fighting. Dory is a fighter, and, I mean, we never give up until the checkered flag. I think the car maybe be a little bit bent because I got hit quite hard. Now she got hit, but, yeah, it's a part of the game.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Thank you.
Marietta, thank you. Another good battle going on here as you see Danny Pedrosa dropping back in the traffic into the inside line. Lunges Lewis Williamson there up alongside Stefan Tribodini, and he's going to run him out wide, but Lewis Williamson comes out just ahead. Up the curb, Tribodini, the car quivers, and he tries to fight back. Gets the inside line for 7, but couldn't really go through. More and more penalties are coming, including one for the Iron Dames, and also for Gerhard Vatzinger and Brendan Leach, but also Patrick Kujala now being given a 5-second penalty for track limit offences.
Strike limit, strike again.
Yeah, exactly. You predicted it, and so this again sort of affects what's going on for the result as you look at Williamson and Tribodini. Now also, while we were hearing from Michelle Gatting-Mirko, we were looking at the lead gap, which is coming down a little bit, down to 2.6 seconds now, so Danny Format is on a mission.
Yeah, well, it looks like, I mean, the pace is really, really strong. As you said, it's coming down. I hope, well, that maybe Piquet was pushing a bit too much in the first stint. Question mark, we will see.
Could also be, I guess, that there's traffic affecting his pace, so we'll have to keep an eye on that as well if he's got other cars around him. There is confirmation of the penalty for Gerhard Vatzinger and Brendan Leach. We've also got 5 seconds going the way now of Gianno Taurino, so just like yesterday's race, it'll take quite a lot of unravelling at the end as you keep applying penalty after penalty. And there's also 5 seconds being added to Gianno Taurino for causing a collision in number 188 against the Iron Dames car. Right, so there is Gerhard Vatzinger. He still leads in Pro-Am on the track, but right behind him is John Dubett, who is about to take over the Pro-Am lead on the track. So there is the North American Pro-Am champion, and Vatzinger goes wide. John Dubett tries to get up the inside. Vatzinger moves across on him. John Dubett tries the outside at turn 9, and job done. Made that look pretty easy, didn't he? Goes through. So John Dubett's ahead of Gerhard Vatzinger and straight away starts to build the gap, look, as he heads downhill.
Meanwhile, the gap is coming down at the top. even further. Spinelli is back in P5, so but the gap is quite big. So actually now will be a good moment for them for a safety car to really, reshuffle the entire thing and put the group together. But yeah, it's actually at the moment the fastest car on track, running in P5.
Yeah, the fastest lap of the race from early on was Nelson Piquet. There he is, the race leader. But you're right, Loris Spinelli is the fastest man on the circuit now, but he's 13 seconds back from the next car, and there's a massive amount of track space before he could even think about getting up with Patrick Cuéllar. If he can get within 5 seconds of Cuéllar, he'll gain the place anyway because of Patrick's penalty, but it's still a big ask even to get there. We've got only now 12.5 minutes of the race to go, and Nelson Piquet doing exactly what is required. He's being quick, but he's being neat and tidy. I don't think we've had a single warning about track limits for Nelson in either race. Back on board with Doriane Pin, who is running 7th, but has a 5-second track limit penalty to factor in at the end of the race. So that car has had a few hits in this race, but it's still quick.
Yeah, still quick, still running strong, executing really well. I think for that debut weekend in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, still the experience they gained this weekend is the main thing looking into the future. So I think they can be still really happy with their performance.
Agreed, yes, as the leaders go by, and the lead gap is down by 0.4 of a second. It's now down to 2.1 seconds now, Piquet to Formal. Marzio Moretti runs 3rd. There is Patrick Cuéllar 4th on the road, but with a penalty. So that lead gap, fascinating. Nelson Piquet, of course, would like to win the race, but even if he was 2nd, he would still be able to win the grand final, because only 6th yesterday were Marcelli and Formal. So you've got 2 drivers absolutely keen to win the last race of the weekend. But for Piquet, a win is not essential if he wants to win the grand final on the points.
Absolutely, and that's for sure in his mind. Should Formal be able to, you know, close the gap and start a fight, I'm sure that he will have this in his back of his mind. But the driver wants, any racer wants to win, so for sure they will fight for the win, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, as I said before the race started, Nelson's 2 wins in the North American Championship have always come because of the car ahead being given a penalty. So he would really like to take the checkered flag first on the track and be a proper race winner, if you like. And we are 10.5 minutes away from that happening. We're on lap 22 at the moment. As you look at these super slow-mo shots, there is Nelson Piquet's car coming into turn 1 and how the nose dips. There, Milantican's Marzio Moretti's entry. The 2 Lamborghini Young Driver Programme members. There's the Young Driver Programme, there's the Junior Programme, and 10 minutes on the clock. More drivers now on their last warning. Makes his way past the pits, Marzio Moretti with Milantican's watching on. And the lead gap down to 1.6 seconds, so Formal is getting closer all the time to Piquet for the race lead. 9 3/4 minutes to go. It's getting interesting, this. So as Marzio Moretti presses on in 3rd, Milantican's, his co-driver, is with Marietta.
In a very good place to get on the podium.
Yeah, I had a good start, catch the Bonduelle. I overtook him at the start, and then I was stuck behind Brendan. And yeah, I had to get up to speed a little bit, and for him to wait to slow down a little bit, and then I dived him down the inside of turn 5. Then I catch the car in front, but when I was driving, I had the engine problem, so now everything is fine, but the engine was getting a little bit too hot, so let's see.
Thank you very much, good luck.
Well, it's Marzio Moretti that he's trying to cope with any potential problem, and he's doing a good job in 3rd, as there is Piquet, and look behind him, Danny Formal has got that gap down to 1.2 seconds now. So Danny Formal having a really, really good push.
Yeah, it's absolutely flying. I mean, we are about to witness 2 good fights, one for the lead, one for P3. The cars are really close, in close battles, so anything's still open here tonight.
They're coming into turn 15. There's no traffic to worry about because the back markers are heading into turn 5. So I think they're going to get through this without any traffic. In other words, Dani Formal does not have the ability to hope that Piquet will be delayed by back markers. He has got to do all of this on his own pace now and just go absolutely flat out, and he is doing so. The gap is 1 second, another 6/10 then taken out on that lap. So Dani Formal, the Costa Rican driver, comes up to turn 3 for the Wayne Taylor Racing Squad, comes out of the hairpin through 4, and Piquet, the Brazilian, who again is from that North American Championship, leading the way, but it won't be long before he's got to go defensive.
Yeah, starts to feeling it now. You could see on the main straight, big look in the mirror. Where is Formal? Where's my opponent? At the moment it's still comfortable, but the gap is coming down.
More penalties come, thankfully not for these two though, so we've got 1 or 2 drivers further back being penalised, which we'll worry about in a moment as you watch there. Dani Formal climb the hill, comes over the brow, and it is still Piquet ahead, but it's 7/10 at that last sector. But as we have seen over the course of the weekend, over the course of the season, you can catch, but finding a way past is not easy. Dani Formal edging ever closer to Nelsinho as they come downhill. Gianna Torino has just been given his 3rd penalty of the race. That's going to drop him a long, long way back from 6th on the road. That's John Dubet, who is leading currently in Pro-Am. And yesterday, they were only 8th in the class. So for the grand final points, Pro-Am is going to take a little bit more work to decipher. 6th yesterday and 3rd today, Milan Petelé and Dimitri Gavatseva, but it ain't over yet, still 6.5 minutes to go. Leader goes by, so it is still 7/10 of a second now, Piquet to Formal. And here the leading Pro-Am car is in 9th place overall. John Dubet's doing a good job, having taken over from Bryson Liu, the American driver that used to race in the French Formula 4 Championship, but John Dubet's then powering his way downhill once more. Currently the leaders on lap 25, and there they are, almost together. Dani Formal, is he close enough to make a move yet? Not quite, is he? Just a little bit too far back, I think. So down to the hairpin they come, but he closes up under braking, so now Dani Formal much, much closer to Piquet.
Yeah, it's nose to tail now. It's the fight is on for the win here, and it's amazing how they turn it around. I mean, after the first stint, we were like, oh, huge gap now. Everything's under control, but seems like Nelson Piquet is struggling a bit with his tires now, especially in Sector 3. Big moments, big slides on entry. So, yeah, for sure he has the experience. He knows how to defend and how to win races, that's no doubt. But, yeah, the pressure is on now.
So even a 2nd place, he would still be the grand final winner. And for Dani Formal and Kyle Marcelli, even if they can't win the grand final, they can win the race. Coming then nose to tail, 5 minutes to go. There's going to be time for 2, maybe even 3 more laps. Piquet's car a little bit further away from the apex of the corner at 14. There as he powers his way down the short straight. And then the long, long, long turn 15 onto the pit straight. The gap down to half a second at that last sector point. Formal out wide, maintaining momentum into the last 5 minutes of the weekend then now as they head over the timing line, and half a second it is between 1st and 2nd. Piquet hits the brakes at turn 1, so there does Dani Formal behind him, flings the car through the corner, uses the curb but doesn't exceed the track limits, getting ever, ever, ever closer, and now starting to work out where he might be able to make a move. Out of turn 4, nose to tail almost, but a bit of a slide there, was there, from Formal? Just looks as though he was working a bit hard. Down to the hairpin, not close enough to make a move there, but Dani Formal does gain a length by the look of it, under braking.
It's not quite close yet, but he's closing the gap step by step. Obviously, once you get in that window we were talking before, it's difficult. You start to lose the front axle, you start to lose your grip on high speed. So, yeah, it's easier, let's say, when you have the pace advantage to close the gap, but then to follow the car and try to make a move, as we've seen earlier on also in other battles throughout in the field. It's not that easy, but yeah, I'm sure he will try everything to get the win, David.
I I agree entirely, because we know how much this means to the North American teams, to a champion team as well. There is the much penalised Gianna Taurino, who is in 6th place, chasing after Doriane Pin, because Doriane has now got ahead. So that's a place change on the road for 6th and 7th. Both have got penalties, but fewer penalties for the Iron Dames than for Gianna Taurino. So downhill they drop, and 3 minutes remain in the race. Now, Dani Formal is dropping back just a touch, because as they went to the last timing point, it was 9/10 of a second. So as you go back on board with Doriane Pin, the lead gap just stretching back in favour of Nelson Piquet. This is for 6th, Doriane Pin's view, heading out of turn 14. And this is how she made the move down into the hairpin. And was there contact involved? Yes, there was.
Beautiful.
Doriane Pin roughs up Gianna Taurino a little bit, but goes through. And there is Michelle Gatting watching on, pleased that the car has gained another place. And that's the lead situation. And there's going to be time for at least one more lap. And that off the road is 108, the Patrick Liddy Damon Ockey car. Damon Ockey at the wheel of it. He's dropped the rear wheels into the gravel.
Would this be a safety car now? Or?
I think with 2 minutes to go, it would just be covered under a yellow flag, wouldn't it? That's what happened yesterday. Double yellows at turn 8. A safety car would be the end of the race, wouldn't it? So it's happened right at the very end. Alain Adon, the race director, if he can, I think will keep the race going. It's a localised incident, only one car, so double yellows there. You can race everywhere else around the racetrack. There's also the hope that Damon Ockey might be able to drive it out of the gravel. Now, we've got one more lap to go, looking at the clock, but Dani Formal there in 2nd place just can't quite get close enough to make a move, can he?
No, not quite. Not quite.
It's been a mega effort. Doriane Pin's move that you said was beautiful is being investigated, that bit of contact. So the race director has a different definition of beautiful. But anyway, she went through, but it's being looked at. It might come to nothing. No, 5-second penalty. Doriane Pin causing a collision. Didn't seem to be that big a knock, but anyway, 5 seconds go to Doriane Pin. There's also 5 seconds for track limit offences, so that car will drop down. Loris Spinelli, incidentally, is still there in 5th place, but he's 5.6 seconds back from Kujala, so he's almost now ready to benefit from Kujala's penalty. That's confirmation of Doriane Pin's problems. So it does not look, barring a mistake, as though Formal is going to go through. There is Kujala, who's on the back of Moretti, and therefore being delayed. This is the 3rd and 4th places. This is going to go down to the wire as well, but up front, Nelson Piquet still leads the way. There to the outside line, Marzio Moretti. He needs to go wide in and tight out, I would have thought here, and can't do it. Patrick Kujala tries to go around the outside. Moretti comes out ahead still. So that's for 3rd and 4th on the road. But bear in mind that Kujala has got a penalty. Up front, Nelson Piquet is heading for the checkered flag. He's heading for the win. We're watching 3rd, but the race leaders are heading up towards the timing line and to the end of the race. And there, how defensive does Marzio Moretti go way over the curve on the inside line there. Kujala stuck behind him, and now Loris Spinelli is getting much, much closer. So Spinelli will gain a place on the penalty because he's now within the 5 seconds of Kujala. There, though, is Nelson Piquet, and he is going to win, and he's going to win the grand final as well. He's going to win race 2. He's going to take the grand final championship because the checkered flag is there, and Nelson Piquet wins the Lamborghini Super Trofeo grand final. He wins the race, and he wins on points. 2nd in the race, Dani Formal and Kyle Marcelli. Marzio Moretti is going to take 3rd, but then Patrick Kujala, 4th on the road, will get a penalty, and Loris Spinelli is close enough to benefit from that, I would have thought, and take the place. We'll double check in a moment. Did he get close enough? So there is the Doriane Pin car, which has had a fair consequence. That penalty for the contact against Taurino does seem a little bit harsh to my untrained eye.
Well, we haven't seen the beginning of it. We just saw the moment they went door to door, let's say. So there was a little bit of a contact, but I think there was contact a few laps before as well when Taurino attacked Doriane Pin. So it's a bit of give and take, no?
Yeah, yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's just racing.
there are the Pro-Am winners, Bryson Liu and John G. Betts. And there is the very proud race winner, got his Brazilian flag already out of the window, Nelson Piquet. So a great drive that. I mean, he fended off everybody. He didn't win by a massive margin. He did stretch it towards the end, but he did everything that was required to win the race and to win the grand final.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he showed his experience on managing the race, managing his tires until the end. Obviously, the pace of Danny Formal was incredibly strong in the second stint, but it looked like Nelson had it under control and could take a really deserved win home and also the grand final title.
But a good drive by Danny Formal, wasn't it? The team from Carl Marcelli's point of view saying that it wasn't the easiest of cars today, but Danny Formal absolutely drove that to the extreme.
Yes, absolutely. Great race from them. Could benefit also from a good pit stop, a well-timed strategy, and extremely strong pace in the second, especially in the second stint.
Well, there is the Pro-Am winners in the race. That's Bryson Liu and John Dubett. I'm not yet talking about points for Pro-Am and therefore the grand final winners, because we've got so many penalties to apply. The timing screen is still showing how they came across the line. It's updating gradually. It does confirm fourth place to Loris Spinelli ahead of Patrick Kujala. John Dubett being given the Pro-Am win from Emanuele Zonzini, Emanuele Colombini, who only got 1 point yesterday, so that gives them 12, so they aren't in the reckoning. Third, Lewis Williamson and Massimo Ciglia, so they get 10 points. No, I think actually so far Bryson Liu and John Dubett are looking the strongest here. Milan Petelet, Dimitri Guatsova, they might still be in the reckoning, because they got 5th with 8 points, they get 13. No, they don't do enough. So I think Liu and Dubett, with that win, are provisionally Pro-Am grand final winners, but we'll double check shortly as Nelson Piquet starts the celebrations. And that means a lot to him, because in a sense, I guess, he's always the benchmark, because he's been the Grand Prix driver. Everybody wants to beat him and everybody expects him to win. You know, if you've raced in Formula One, you should be winning in this as well, people think.
Yeah, but it's never take anything for granted, you know, especially in motorsport. It's always hard work. Doesn't matter on which level you compete. If you don't do the job, if you don't prepare everything how it has to be at the best possible way, you will not be successful. Doesn't matter if you were a Formula One driver or not. But yeah, they proved to do a great job, and obviously he could play his experience here and take the title.
Well, with the Brazilian flag, Nelson Piquet Jr. stands atop the car. Race winner, grand final winner, Nelson Piquet. A very, very happy man and a great drive. He knew exactly what he had to do to look after the tyres, to avoid track limit penalties, didn't speed in the pit lane, the pit stop was fine, and every box ticked. Chris Ward, who looks after the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Championship, congratulates him. And whereas we had European Championship drivers winning both classes in the AM and Lamborghini Cup, it looks like it's drivers and teams from the North American that take both in Pro and Pro-Am. So it's a very happy Nelson Piquet, and he can reflect on a great drive with Marietta Evans.
Nelson, not only win in the race, but grand finals champion, what does it all mean to you?
I have no words. I mean, I never expected, honestly, before I came over here. We didn't have the easiest season in America. And Alan gave me a call and he said, let's go to Portugal, let's do the final. I said, well, if you want to do it, I'm in. I'm free that weekend. So we're here, we won it, and thank you very much, Alan, the whole ANSA Motorsport team for giving me the opportunity. It's amazing to be racing in incredible cars like these and amazing championships and an amazing track. So for sure it's a day that I won't forget that soon.
Because you have competed and won pretty much everywhere else. Did you come here with a lot of pressure that people were like, all eyes were on you?
Honestly, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I thought that maybe the European Lamborghini Championship was going to be really strong, and I said, well, we're going to have to up our game a little bit. But when he sent me the schedule and he said there's going to be testing Tuesday, Wednesday. I said, well, okay, well, I think we have a chance to develop the car and try to get that win at the end, and here we are.
Amazing job.
Thank you very
Deserved.
much.
Thank you very much.
It was well deserved, absolutely. And there's not much that Nelson hasn't raced over the years, from Formula 1 to being Formula E champion, A1 GP, sports prototypes, GT cars, even rallycross. So he's been a very busy racer after his Formula 1 career. There is John Dubetz, Bryson Liu with his back to the camera, celebrating, of course, a Pro-Am championship yesterday and now a Pro-Am win today. What about Danny Formal and Carl Marcelli? Second place there with Marietta.
How did you feel with finishing P2 in this race?
Oh man, it was a tough one for sure. I saw Nelson coming out of the pits and I told my guys I'm going after him. And we started doing good laps, half a second, 6/10, half a second, 6/10. These cars are so fast. But when you get behind somebody and you get dirty air, it's very hard to keep the car close to the guy in front of you. I was in my last track limit warning too, very early in my stint, so I had to stay inside the white lines. So obviously that didn't help. I think Nelson saved his towards the end. When he saw me close, he started using a little bit the 2-3 track limits you're allowed per race. He got me again, and yeah, I just told my guys that's all I got, and just bring it home. P2. So happy for Nelson, for Alain Nadal. He was my first opportunity in sports car racing. He gave me my first opportunity. So super happy they won. Super happy North America brought the title home, the pro title, just showing the level we have over there. No, just so thankful for Wayne Taylor Racing, Prestige Performance, Lamborghini Squadra Corsa. I'm part of their young driver program, so I'll be here tomorrow. I was happy for the team. Disappointed we didn't get a win all weekend in 4 races. We definitely deserved one. Everyone worked extremely hard. The car was great. We really had good race pace. Just thankful and excited for whatever brings 2023.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So Danny Formal, after a really good stint, ending up 1.2 seconds back from Nelson Piquet. And after a tough day yesterday, when they started at the back and got involved in an incident early on, coming through for second place in today's race. Well, we expected it was going to be exciting, and it certainly did not disappoint, did it? Good racing.
Yeah, that's what we expected. Good racing. Yeah, great race at the end. Deserved winner, I would say, with Nelson Piquet dominating the race from the start, managing his tires in the end, and yeah, strong race from Danny Formal as well, and Carl Marcelli. So yeah, it wasn't quite enough, but they did everything they could, trying to challenge for the win.
Absolutely. Nelson Piquet wins from Danny Formal and Carl Marcelli. Marzio Moretti and Milan Tikens third. Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing fourth, ahead of Patrick Kujala on his own. Then Billy Johnson with Dorian Pin and Michel Gatting provisionally seventh. Gianno Taurino with a litany of penalties. Eighth, John Dubetz and Bryson Liu winning Pro-Am. Ninth, ahead of Aidan Yoda and Jordan Missig. And there you see some of those hard luck stories, people retiring early on, including Amaury Bonduelle, who dropped out of yesterday's race early as well, so the problems persisted. There is Nelson Piquet's car. The drivers are making their way up to the podium, both the top 3 in Pro as well as in Pro-Am. And after a great season of Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing both in Europe and North America, we look forward to more of the same next year. Nelson Piquet being interviewed by Lamborghini's media team. And that'll be all over social media in a few moments' time, no doubt. The trophies are ready. Maurizio Reggiani, the Vice President of Motorsport for Lamborghini, will be there to hand over the trophies. And as the drivers assemble, let's just catch our breath and have a reflection of some of those super slow-mo moments from the grand final for the Pro-Ams and the Pros. So to the podium we go, and already drivers making their way to the podium steps for the Pro-Am and the Pro podiums. It's the Pro-Ams that we start with, so there for third place are Lewis Williamson and Massimo Ciglia. For second place, Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini, and they're the race winners, John Dubetz and Bryson Liu. I'm less convinced about them taking honours in the grand final now, because I think it's a tie on points, and it's going to come down to the fastest lap, which we'll try and get to in a moment as the national anthem plays for the winning drivers. So the anthem plays, the drivers now await the trophies. And I would provisionally say that Sebastian Carrozzo for the Brian Ortiz shared car was fractionally faster in a lap time, which should give him the nod on the tie-break, provisionally, for grand final victory. But there, as Maurizio Reggiani hands over the trophies to the second place drivers of Emanuele Colombini and Emanuele Zonzini, and now to the winners, who are, of course, John Dubetz there, nearest to us in the spectacles, and Bryson Liu. They did a really good job today, finishing not only as the class winners, but in 9th place overall. Smiles all round. Lewis Williamson, the Scottish driver on the far right as you look at the podium, somebody that's been splitting his time between these cars and Mercedes in British GT, so having to adapt to a different type of car on a different weekend, but has come away with the European title, and the champagne is now about to be sprayed, and Lewis makes sure that he might be vanquished on track, but not on the podium. Everybody gets a soaking. But John Dubetz and Bryson Liu happy with their race win. Confirmation will come as to who takes the nod on the tie-break. As I say, the understanding is that it's down to the faster race lap, a 1:44.9 being shown for Bryson and John, and a 1:44.5 for the Brian Ortiz Sebastian Carrozzo car. So John Dubetz and Bryson Liu take honours, and there is confirmation that Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo get the nod on the tie-break then. So it is the Brian Ortiz Sebastian Carrozzo combination that wins, ahead of John Dubetz and Bryson Liu, with then Dani Pedrosa and Antonin Borgin third in points in Pro-Am. And so then we turn our attention to something that's a little bit simpler, and that is the Pro podium, where for third place Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti are already there. For second, Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal make their way across to the second step. And then the top step beckons for Nelson Piquet, who will be a very, very proud man to stand on top of the podium as the grand final winner here at Portimao. Out he steps. Brazilian flag at the ready. Nelson Piquet it is, who is the grand final winner of 2022.
Muito obrigado.
It is the anthem of the winning team that plays. So for the Ansa Motorsport squad, Nelson Piquet, the driver, the anthem plays, and now Maurizio Reggiani hands over the trophies to Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti. Then at the other end of the podium to Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal. And then, of course, to the winner, Nelson Piquet. And I know we've said it already, Mirko, but just a great job by Nelson. Didn't put a wheel wrong, coped with the pressure, did everything he needed to do to win the race.
Yeah, executed perfectly from
Time for the official.
from the green light to the checkered flag. Yeah, great performance today and also yesterday, of course. And generally deserved winner.
Absolutely so. And it would be nice, wouldn't it, if we saw Nelsinho now in GT3 racing to add to his Super Trofeo exploits. But for now, it's drivers from the North American Championship taking Pro and Pro-Am, and all smiles on the podium as the champagne awaits. A third race win of the year for Nelson Piquet. First time he's taking the checkered flag first, so it's going to be an even more significant one to celebrate his grand final success. A win is a win, yes, but it's not quite the same when you inherit it, is it? So, a happy Nelson Piquet takes honours in the final race of the weekend. There will be the grand final prize giving to come a little bit later on, in about 20 minutes' time or so. But Nelson Piquet it is then, with a second place and a win and 2 pole positions. Let's not ignore his qualifying speed as well, who wins the grand final from Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli, and Milan Tikans and Marzio Moretti third. Carl Marcelli, Danny Formal fourth, ahead then of Eduardo Liberati and Dario Capitano, with Patrick Kujala coming home sixth in the standings. So, a fantastic weekend of action rounded out here at Portimao, and there'll be more of the same, of course, next year. The World Final will be at Vallelunga in 12 months' time. There's a full season of Asian, North American and European Lamborghini Super Trofeo racing, plus, of course, the GT3 programme to look forward to as well. But for now, from Portimao, from Marietta Evans, Mirko Bortolotti and David Addison, thanks for your company. It's goodbye. Lamborghini Cup for third place was Gerard van der Horst, represented by team manager of Van der Horst Motorsport, Philip Roots. Please onto the podium.
Third place, Philip, well done. For second place in Lamborghini Cup from the Flying Lizard Motorsports team, Slade Stewart. Having taken the Lamborghini Cup in the North American Championship, but for the top step of the podium, the Lamborghini Cup winners in Super Trofeo Grand Final, Francois and Benoit Saint-Laurent. Gentlemen, well done. To the podium they come, and Maurizio Reggiani, the Vice President of Motorsport, Automobili Lamborghini, will now present the trophies that go to our third place drivers. Gerard van der Horst, represented by Philip Roots, the team manager of
the team that won the Lamborghini Cup in Super Trofeo Europe. To the Flying Lizards Motorsports driver Slade Stewart, and from 7 Speed, Francois and Benoit Saint-Laurent as the class winners. And now please we have Emilia Capasso, the Pirelli Motorsport marketing manager, to give the Pirelli trophy to our category winners Francois and Benoit Saint-Laurent. And then everybody together please for the photographs. Big smiles all round at the end of another great weekend of racing in Lamborghini Cup. Congratulations to our Lamborghini Cup drivers then, and we've asked them to make their way from the podium, ready for the next category. Congratulations then to Gerard van der Horst, to Slade Stewart, and of course also to Francois and Benoit Saint-Laurent. Right, to the AM category next, the third place, although he's not here, the third place was taken by Shihan Chandra Soma, and he'll be represented please by Chris Ward from Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. The second place from the Precision Performance Motorsports team after a great race win today, David Starr and Nico Roger. And the AM winner in Super Trofeo Grand Finals, yet another trophy goes the way of Andrzej Lewandowski. And once more please, Maurizio Reggiani, the Vice President of Motorsport, Automobili Lamborghini, to hand out the trophies to our winners. The bronze, the silver, the gold, and then also can I ask please Davide De Lorenzi, the Head of Commercial Motorsport, Pirelli Manager, to head forward to give the Pirelli trophy as well to Andrzej Lewandowski as the class winner. Once everybody has their trophies, we'll ask them to get together on the top step of the podium for the photographs. If everybody is happy, guys, congratulations, thank you very much. Can we ask you to head from the podium, and the Pro-Am podium awaits. Well done to Andrzej Lewandowski, our second winner crowned on this Grand Final podium. So, to Pro-Am next, where for third place for the Rexel FFF racing team, Antonin Burger and Dani Pedrosa. And it was all decided on a tie break with the faster lap in that second race. But for the Precision Performance Motorsports team, second to today's winners on track, John Duvets and Bryson Liu.
Pro-Am goes to Sebastian Carrozzo and Brian Ortiz. Guys, congratulations, well done once more, please. Maurizio Reggiani, the Vice President of Motorsport for Automobili Lamborghini, steps forward to hand over the trophies to Danny Pedrosa and Anthony Borger for third, to John G. Betts and Bryson Liu for second, and then Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo will get the winners' trophies, and Ferruccio Pavesi, please, Pirelli Motorsports Activities Manager, to hand over the Pirelli trophy to the winning drivers as well. Please, all together for photographs. All bunch up, all smile, trophies in the air. And again, one of our closest outcomes to a well final competition, with it coming down to that tie on the fastest lap. Big cheers from the team to the pit lane, and well done to our winning drivers in Pro-Am. And also, just to make the point to the winning drivers, we would like you all back for one group photograph once we've done the Pro podium. So Lamborghini Cup and Pro-Am winners, don't disappear, please. We'd like you back on the podium for one last group photograph. And that will be coming up once we've celebrated the winners in Pro, where for third place, please, for Target Racing, Milan Tikens and Marzio Moretti. Second place, the European champions for Bonaldi Motorsport, Loris Spinelli and Max Wearing. But a race win today is added to by success in Super Trofeo Grand Final, because the winner on track, the winner on points, the winner in Pro for ANSA Motorsports is Nelson Piquet! Once more, please, Maurizio Reggiani to step forward with the trophies. To Milan and Marzio for third. And then at the other end of the podium to Max Wearing and Loris Spinelli after a fantastic season, second in the Grand Finals. And then the enormous winner's trophy will go the way of Nelson Piquet, and please, Stefano Bonardi, the head of technical operations of Pirelli, to hand over the Pirelli trophy as well. So everybody please together for the Pro photograph, and then category winners, be on your toes please, come back to the podium ready for the winners photograph that we need. Well done once more then to Nelson Piquet, winner of the Pro class in Lamborghini Super Trofeo Grand Finals. One or two last photographs I think to be taken. Nelson, don't run away, because we're going to need you in a moment for the group photograph. Can we also therefore please ask back to the podium Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo? Can we have Andrzej Lewandowski? And can we have Francois and Benoit Samoulin back as well for the winner's photograph, please? Nelson Piquet makes his way back to the podium, and that is everybody we need. From Lamborghini Cup, Francois and Benoit Samoulin. From the AMSA, Andrzej Lewandowski. From Pro-Am, Brian Ortiz and Sebastian Carrozzo. And from Pro, Nelson Piquet. Those, everybody, are category champions in the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo Grand Finals. Lamborghini family for their photograph. So, everybody step forward, all of our trophy winners. And dignitaries as well, for what's going to be a busy podium. Drivers, team representatives, Lamborghini officials, Pirelli as well, everybody that has made such a great success out of the weekend, some great racing on track. And our final group photograph to round out the weekend. If you can find space, everybody, crowd in. Ready? The photograph's just about organised. We've got trophies, we've got drivers, we've got dignitaries. Right, everybody is there, I think, that we need. All of you on the podium, let's have one big cheer to round out Super Trofeo Grand Finals weekend for 2022. All big smiles and a great reception. Everybody happy? Everybody good to go? Photographs ready? Everybody on the podium? A Lamborghini family then at the end. Grand Finals weekend. Great racing and lots of happy drivers, and there'll be more of the same in 2023.